Good morning, guys. Slight change of plans this morning. I had to drive my son to school because he slept in, and I believe, especially with children, that if they're sleeping, let them sleep. Their body is telling them they need sleep, and that's what I do. When he needs to sleep in the morning, I let him. Okay, I'm working on keeping my message to 7 minutes long and no longer. When I get back at the house, I'm going to tell you what the promotion is for today. In the meantime, I wanted to talk to you briefly about your emotional relationship with food. And it's 8:02, so I want to be done by 8:10 at the latest. Okay, first of all, the one thing you need to remember is that since the day you were born, most of us have been eating a lot of chemicalized foods that have only become worse over time. And these large, big box companies have mastered the art in changing the molecules of food to make them highly addictive. So you have your pleasure center, and that is where dopamine is released into the body every time you experience pleasure. Okay, so even, the reason why so many people are addicted to their smartphones and Facebook and so on is because every time you hear a ding or you get a text message or you get a message of any kind, there is a dopamine response that makes you feel happy. It gives you this feeling of reward, like, hey, someone wants to talk to me. Bing, reward, dopamine is released. So, good morning, everybody. I'm trying to drive and talk at the same time, so I'm not going to comment on comments coming through because I can't read, drive, and talk. Okay. So, these companies have made food extremely addictive. And that's the first thing you need to remember, is that you are currently putting yourself through your own Betty Ford clinic. The same way you are detoxifying your body as if you were addicted to smoking, as if you were addicted to heroin or any other kind of drug. You need to be able to get strong enough over that addiction, and you need to shift your mindset. It has been repeated again every day. We've got verification that it is okay to eat these foods by watching commercials, by being stimulated by ads, by them being absolutely everywhere and all over the place, that these amount of chemicalized foods is fine to eat, and it's no problem to eat it. And the people's worst expectations of eating these foods is just getting fat. But it's not a matter of just eating fat. It's a matter of becoming chemicalized, being addicted to these foods, and then not being able to stop eating these foods. And that's the big problem. So the first thing you need to recognize is that you have a chemical addiction to food the same way alcohol, cigarettes, or heroin. So you need a mindset shift to detox your body and shed yourself of your addiction. You do have a food addiction. That is obvious. It's clear. Anytime we need a hit of dopamine, we need to feel good because there's something bad going on in our life, we're going to go for the first thing that we know, the cheapest thing that we know, the easiest thing that we know that is going to make us feel better, and that is your connection to food. But as they say, a moment in the lips is forever on the hips. It's so true, right? Any kind of food that you're going to have, like a chocolate bar, chips, whatever, it is such a short-lived response rate for such long-term detrimental relates that at the end of the day are fatal. They are fatal decisions that you're making by constantly being addicted to these foods and latching onto them. So that is my first point. My second point is that you have a memory associated with all of the foods that you're addicted to. So when you grew up with boxed cereals, you grew up with bread and butter, you grew up with sandwiches, you grew up with Kraft Dinner, pastas, pizzas, McDonald's, all of these foods that we try so hard to stay away from, which are the same foods that you're feeding your children today, creating all of these bad habits all over again, making it even harder for them to be able to fight these food addictions when they get older, which is all the more reason why you have to put your foot down with your children and make sure that they're eating fruits, vegetables, natural, wholesome, organic meats and limited dairy and so on, you have to remember that your childhood was brought up this way. This is your imprint. So the minute you're feeling lonesome, sad, depressed, anxious, nervous, something crappy just happened to you and you want to feel better, you are immediately going to go back to your childhood memories of comfort. That time when it's a rainy day and you would go and have a French vanilla cappuccino at Tim Hortons because that was your association with comfort on a cold, rainy day. I have lots of childhood memories of, my dad and I spent very little time together in my childhood and continue to spend very little time together. So a coffee crisp, and no, it was with him, it was a Rice Krispie cake and a Coke every time we'd come back home from the barn after riding horses. And that Rice Krispie square will take me back every single time to a Wednesday night when we went out to the barn and went riding together, and I have that association with my dad. With my mom, it was a coffee crisp and a Coke, because all the time when she picked me up from gymnastics, she always had a coffee crisp and a Coke as my reward for going to gymnastics. To this day, I cannot see a coffee crisp without thinking about those memories. You have a ton of those memories, and you need to be able to associate them, connect them, and then annihilate them to replace them with better choices. Identify your emotional foods that you gravitate towards first for that dopamine response. Write them all down. Make a plan of action to replace those foods with better choices. So if you are so used to having pancakes with maple syrup in the morning and that's how you grew up with waffles, then make the keto pancakes with the healthier flours and eggs and so on. Figure out all the replacements. If you grew up eating salt and vinegar chips, make salt and vinegar kale chips, right? If you grew up eating muffins for breakfast, then make the keto muffins with cacao and just learn how to make these choices better. 200 years ago, this was not a problem for any of us. All we could do was eat foods that came from the ground and any food that had a mother, and that's how we grew up for tens of thousands of years. You have to knock your brain in the head and say, okay, I have got a food addiction. I am chemically wired and addicted to fake chemicalized foods, and now I have to reprogram and do a mind shift to understand that I need to get back to basics and eat basic, clean food the way our bodies were designed to eat and move. And these foods that are on the shelves need to look like plastic to me. When I walk by these shelves and I see a row of chocolate bars, I need to do a mind shift and be able to alternate from being able to look at those chocolate bars as something yummy that's going to make me feel good into making them look like dog poo-poo sitting on a shelf and it's plastic and it's not edible. That's the hashtag of the day. Hashtag chemicalized food is not edible. Not edible. Okay, it's 8:10. I promise to keep these videos short from now on. I think I've accomplished my goal. I'll be back live in about 20 minutes to talk to you today about our 1-day sale promotion. This promotion is only available for today. That's it. That's all. So today is the day that you're going to want to sign up and take advantage of your membership opportunities. I will be in touch with you in 20 minutes. Bye.